Hello, lovely people. How are you all doing? How is work, soulmates? I hope you all are moving perfectly. I hope everything is in control. Yeah, today, without much ado, I would like to go straight to what we have for today. I'll be making a shirt and shorts. This is a fabric I'll be using for this work. I've already cut out part of the fabric, but I will still explain how I came about this. And yes, let's not forget to all our old subscribers, I cannot thank you enough. I can't really thank you enough. From the depth of my heart, I really appreciate you working with me. And then to the new ones, please, if you've not subscribed, it costs nothing to subscribe. Just click on that subscribe button. You are subscribing to encourage me and nothing more. Okay, I would like to you subscribe so you can encourage me to do more. Okay, all right, that's by the way, let's go to what we have for today. So like I said earlier, I'm making a shirt and a shirt. um and here is the fabric I'm working with. I've already marked out. I actually want an elastic to be at the waist of my shirt. I'll be working with an elastic. So here's my elastic measurement. This is where I want my elastic to be. I used an allowance of about 3 inches. Yeah, 3 inches for my elastic. Because by the time I fold it in and sew, I'll be left with 2 inches. I'm working with a fabric length. It's actually a short. So the length of this short is going to be 18 inches. Here's my 18, and then the rest is my seam allowance of about 1 inch. Now, I folded this fabric with my thigh measurement. If you're working on a trouser or a shirt, you need to fold your fabric with your thigh measurement and not your hip measurement, because thigh is divided by 2 but hip is divided by 4. So whenever you divide your thigh by 2 and then divide hip by 4, you find out that the thigh will be bigger than the hip. So you need to fold your fabric with the biggest measurement, and the biggest so far while making a trouser is the thigh. So my thigh is 19.5. 19.5, when I divide it by 2, whatever I get is what I used to fold my fabric. So my hip is 29, divided by 4 is 7.5. So looking at the two figures, my thigh is bigger than my hip. So I'll be folding my fabric with my thigh measurement. And then my thigh is 9.75. Here's 9.75. Yes, 9.75. You can add about 2 to 3 inches seam allowance. Okay. Now, like I told you, this is my elastic case. I've removed it. So all my measurements will start from this point. I'm going to take my hip measurement. I'm working with a hip of 7.5. So here's my hip of 7.5. Here's my hip of 7.5. So from this point to here is my elastic measurement, and then from this point to this point is my hip measurement. And then I'm still going to measure out at this point, since it's going to be an elastic shirt. I'll be measuring my hip measurement up here. Okay, I'm not going to take my waist. Had it been I'll be working on a waist, on a zip. Maybe I want to fix in a zipper here. That means I'll be measuring my waist measurement. But since I don't want to fix a zipper to it, I want to fix an elastic. So I'll still take my hip measurement, which is 7.5 plus 2 inches seam allowance will give me 9.5. Here, I'll still measure out the same 9.5, and I'll connect it. you can see now, between this point to this point is my hip measurement. Between this point to this point is my hip, and between this point to this point is still my hip. This one is assumed to be my hip measurement, but in the actual sense, it is my crush line. Okay, this is my crush line, this is my hip measurement, and this is my waist measurement. Having done this, I'm going to look for my crush now. To find my crush, I'm going to subtract my thigh from my hip measurement. My thigh is 9.75, which is 19.5 divided by 2. My hip is 29 divided by 4, which is 7.5. So 9.75 minus 7.5. 9.75 minus 7.5 will give me 2.5. So my crush is 2.5. I'll mark it here. So between this point now and this point is my crush. It's my crush. This is my crush line, and then this is my crush. Okay? The next thing to do, I've already gotten the length of my short. Now the next thing I'll do is to take the circumference of this length. This is actually a knee length. So I'm going to take my knee circumference. My knee circumference is 14, divided by 2 is 7, plus 2 inches seam allowance, I have 9. And then I'll connect it. So to connect this, you can connect it marking out 2 inches so that you're able to get the curve perfectly. So I've connected this. I marked up 2 inches here, and then from the 2 inches I now made a curve. So what I'll do next is to connect this crush to this knee. Here's it. And I think I'm done with this. So I'll cut it out now. And here's what I have. So it's going to be like this. I'll stitch it like this. Use half an inch to stitch down here. I'll have it like this. Now the next one I'll do is to use this fabric and trace on another fabric to get the back part. I have here the fabric I'll be using for the back. I folded it into two. Here's the fabric I'll be using for the back, and I placed the front fabric on top of it. I left an allowance behind here, an allowance of 2 inches. I didn't leave it at this front because you may not get exactly what you have at this crotch. It's better to get the allowance on a straight line. Okay, so it's still the same thing, but if you can get this part perfectly with 2 inches, it's still okay. Now I'm going to sketch out exactly what I have here, but for the back part of any trouser, it's always higher than the front part. So what I'll do, I'm going to increase this back part by 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So here's the back. I increased it. You can do it with 1 inch, you can do it with 1.5 inch. So here is it. Just increase it like this. So every other thing falls in place, just like what I have here. I'll sketch everything out. here is it, and I'll still slit this back part open. I've joined the two on the cross line with 1/2 inch. I've joined both of them together. Here is it. Now I'm going to place the two fabrics together and join it also. I'll join it by this side, by the two sides, and I'll also join it here with 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch at this point, 1/2 inch here. Then at this point here, I'll take my normal measurement. Remember, we are using the waist, the hip measurement on our waist. So I'll take my hip measurement and then my hip measurement again. I'll stitch up. But if you don't want to waste that time, you can just use the allowance you added. Just remove the allowance you added. So I'm going to take my measurement from the back part. I'm working with a waist of my hip is 29 divided by 2, 14.5. Here's my 14.5, and I'll add 2 inches extra to get 16.5. So I'm left with 3 inches. I'll mark 1.5 here, and I'll mark 1.5 here. I'm adding 2 inches extra because of the back part. Okay, the back part tends to be bigger than the front part. So what I'll do now, I'm going to sew it from this 1.5 here. It was supposed to be 2, but I used half to stitch up this cross line. So I'm going to stitch it down and stitch this one down. I'll be stitching it while placing the frontal one together on it. So I'll do it and show you. So here's what I have. I've joined it by the two sides and under here. Now I'm going to fold in my waist line. Remember, we marked out 3 inches for this waist, so I'll remove that 3 inches for the waistline. I'll fold it so that I can put my elastic, and then I'll also fold this with the 1 inch I left. I'll do it and show you. Now here's my elastic. For you to know the amount of elastic needed, you are going to subtract about 6 to 8 inches from your original waistline. Like my waistline is 23. I can subtract like 6 to 8 inches from it. If you don't want to do it that way, you get your tape. My waist is 23. Now this 23, I'll place this another alternatively. This is another method of doing it. I'll place my tape and my elastic together, and then I'll stretch this elastic to get to the stretching limit. Here's 23. You see where it is. Okay, if I leave it to be around, okay, let me do it again. Here's 23, but if I leave it, it will be around 15 inches. Sorry, around 13 inches. Now left for you to know, it's left for you to know whichever one that works for you. If you want to use this method, you have 13 inches, but you'll be adding about 2 inches or 1 inch seam allowance for the joining part of it. Or you just subtract between 6 to 8 inches and then get your original waist for the elastic. I've also stitched up the waist with my elastic. You can see it. So I'll take this and hem as well this lower part. I'll hem it. And this is all for my shorts. Let's move to the shirts. Check this in part 2 of this video. Thank you.